Good evening. It's 6 o'clock and we are ready to begin. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. De Silva,
Here.
Mrs. Gillis,
Here.
Mr. Valentine,
Here.
Mrs. Messig,
Here.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Schwanke, would you do us the honors, please? Okay, the approval of the agenda for this evening. It is recommended that the board approve this evening's agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Valentine. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Messig,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Awards and recognitions.
Mr. Arn.
Got a good cruise tonight. Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody in summer. It's good to see everybody nice and fresh and a little bit more relaxed. So I have a great group of young men up here, and I'm going to let all the important people talk about their accomplishments. But I want to make sure I tell their parents all the way out there, you have great kids. These guys work so hard, and they do so many things that nobody really knows, and the reason why they're up here is because of all that work that they put in. So I appreciate your support and the time that you allow them to be together. And fellas, I'm super proud of you, and I just want you to know that I notice all the hard work you put in, and I'm proud of you and excited for your future. So I'm going to bring Mr. Schwanke up here so he can introduce Coach Jacobs and get the guys recognized.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jay Schwanke. I'm the athletic director at Jerome, and I'm going to be pretty quick. I'm not going to say anything that Mr. Arnn hasn't said. These guys are great guys, and they're a true representation of Dublin Jerome High School. As AD, as you would imagine, I walk in early in the morning sometimes, late in the evening, and it seems like I can just see one of those guys every time I'm walking in because they're always putting the work in, whether it's the coldest cold day in the winter, whether it's the warmest warm day in summer. They're always working. And all of that is not a surprise when we saw them on the podium at the state track meet, for them to accomplish what they have accomplished, and all the while being great students and great young men. I couldn't be more proud of them. So they've got great coaches. Coach Alex Jacobs is here with Dave Stroh as well. I also wanted to thank the coaching staff that have worked with these guys year-round. So Andrew Bitter, Dave Wadensterna, and also Alex Irwin. So they've all played a hand in helping with the success of these guys who have all earned these accolades, and they've represented our district very well. So thanks a lot, gentlemen. I'm very proud. I'm going to introduce Alex Jacobs, who's our head track coach, and Dave Stroh.
Thank you, guys. Again, we're all super proud of these young men here, and they really embody what it means to be a great student and a great athlete. All four of them were all academic, all Ohio academic athletes. At the state meet, they were second place in the 4x800 meter relay, setting a new school record in the time of 7 minutes and 38 seconds, .40. Which was a second faster than the original record that they ran the week before. So to follow up such a great performance with another great performance in just a wild race, it was spectacular to watch, and I'm super proud of these young guys. Now, I don't work directly with the distance runners as much, and that's why I wanted to have Coach Stroh come up and talk a little bit more about these guys.
Thank you, Coach Jacobs. Once again, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak about these young gentlemen. What's interesting about the relay is they've positioned themselves in their order. I want to talk about that very briefly. But no, we had 3 months where we went from winning the indoor state championship in the 4x8. And then a week later, went to the New Balance 4x-mile national meet in Boston and was 4th in the nation. So they've had a lot of experience in big-time racing. In the last 3 weeks of the season, we pretty much did the same thing. Ethan, first one here, was our leadoff runner, named and he was a great leadoff runner because he was as good as any other leadoff runner in the state. And I think he knew that, I knew that, and it worked out well. Then we had Caden. He was kind of a tow rope guy, meaning he could let someone, he could run his race, let someone get just far enough ahead of him, but then stop. And then he would stay to the end and always, always charge hard and finish strong. We would then have Graham, by far the best third leg. And every single meet this year, except for once, he would pull away from the whole field and maybe the last 150 and make Charlie's job almost too easy. Well, at the state meet, there was another team right beside him. So Charlie had to run basically a 3-second PR in his 800. He'd been running 154 for each 800 most of the season. He ran a 151.5 and was almost able to pull it off. So they were a great combination. It was fun working with them. And then in addition to that, we have to congratulate Charlie for second in the 1600. A lot of times we focus on team, but he had an amazing season as a 1600-meter runner. He again set his school record running the 1600 in 4 minutes and 5 seconds at the regional meet, which is fast. People talk about that. They ask me, how did you get him ready? I said, I don't know. I had 4:05 in my mind most of the season. I think he might have. It just kind of happened on the right day. So great bunch of guys. Once again, thank you, guys. A couple of them we'll see again next year. A couple of them are going off to university and doing some great things. So have a great evening.
Charlie's going to
Aaron, if you
Syracuse.
want to come up and get a picture really quick, that way you have it behind you. Good. You get us in? All right.
Everybody open or everybody closed?
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
There you go. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hold for the Karen. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Martin.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
Good seeing you too.
Okay, moving on, public participation. It's my understanding there's nobody signed up this evening, so we will move on to Board of Education committee reports. Does anybody have anything? No. Okay, then that takes us, on the agenda tonight, we have the approval for Dr. Marshausen's reemployment. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the attached addendum for the rehire of Dr. Marshausen and a new contract of employment for him to serve as superintendent of schools effective August 2nd, 2025 through July 31st, 2029. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Valentine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gillis. Questions or comments from the board? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Messig,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't share, some comments that I have about Dr. Marshausen, as we are going to be stuck with him for the next few years. So looking back at his time in the district so far, there are a couple things I would mention in his highlight reel. Dr. Marshausen has been steadfast to lead the district in an accountable and measurable way. Journey 2030 is an example of his leadership, as it incorporates planning, preparing, executing, and reflecting, not only in terms of academics, but in what defines Dublin City Schools as a district. He led the district through a successful levy campaign, no small task, and he was tireless in his efforts to communicate and inform the community. Currently, as things stand on a state level seem to change daily, he is a tireless advocate in constant consultation with the board, all while being mindful of how and when to share in a call to action. As we move forward, there will be many more challenges we face, most imminent being redistricting. I give him credit for taking this on. It's long overdue. It demonstrates he is not afraid of a challenge, and he will do what needs to be done for the benefit of the district. So I just want to say congratulations, Dr. Marshausen. We look forward to working with you, and we all are grateful for your leadership. Thank you. And that brings us to your comments for the evening.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mrs. Rigby, for those comments, and thank you to the board for your confidence and trust in the work that we do together. One of the things when I talk about leadership in a school district, we talk about a leadership team being 7. The 7 of you plus Mr. Kern and myself, and the work that we have done together over the past several years is a great source of pride, and I am excited to continue to work with many of you, hopefully for the length of the contract, and for some of you for another couple months. And we will continue to focus on student and student performance and to do what's right for our community. So I very much appreciate your confidence and look forward to the challenges ahead, because with great challenges also comes a sense of accomplishment. And we do things in Dublin well, and we do them the way they're supposed to be done. So thank you very much for your confidence, and I look forward to serving this community as we move forward. Speaking of challenges, the budget that was passed by the General Assembly coming out of Conference Committee has many challenges facing public education. First, I'd like to thank the board members who met with members of our city council as we put together a joint collaborative statement on the importance of inside millage, a statement that was heard loud and clear by the members of the conference committee. That legislation is still out there as standalone legislation, and it's still in the Ways and Means Committee. But it was clear from the conferees that the response from not only education agencies, but fire departments, police departments, counties, townships was overwhelming with the importance of inside millage. We will continue to stay focused on that. I believe our efforts to lobby our legislators when the first cap that came out was 30%, which would have been incredibly harmful to our 5-year forecast. We got our senators involved, and they raised it up to 50%. It ended up landing at 40% for a cash cap, and we're going to be at the end of this fiscal year, which closes next Monday. Mr. Kern can share more about this, but I believe we're at like 38.9% when we finish this fiscal year. So because of what we were hearing and the planning and our efforts, we're in a position in the short term that cap does not risk our carryover. We do have concerns as a leadership team about what that cap means for future levy cycles and the ability to be on a 4 or 5 year levy cycle, because if we're unable to run that cash carryover up above 40%, it could mean shorter levy cycles with less millage, or it could mean potentially exploring incremental levies. All of that's in the future, but right now, our fiscal planning that had us going until 2028 would not be impacted by that cap. The foundation formula may or may not have been parts of it included in the state budget. It's never been fully funded, so it's kind of a misnomer that we have a funding formula in the state of Ohio. They increased the per pupil funding by a little bit. I think we get $13 more per student. Overall, I believe we were at about $4.4 million to the benefit in this new budget over the 2-year biennial. We'll take it. Increasing $4.4 million is better than not having $4.4 million. But I do think the greatest issue of concern that comes out of this budget in this General Assembly right now is the total anti-tax sentiment and the understanding that if you want high-quality services by police and fire and education, someone has to pay for those services. And the complexity of Ohio's tax system with now a flat income tax, an attack on property taxes, a limited sales tax, there are few levers that you can pull to generate revenue to support a school district. And those are things that we're going to have to work through over the next 2 years. Biennial budgets are just that. It's every 2 years, and we're going to find ourselves back in this same type of situation in the summer of 27 at some point. So we'll get there. Thanks to all of you for your advice, counsel, lobbying, conversations about the budget process. We'll see what the governor, if the governor line item vetoes any sections out. I believe you've all received from OSBA, because they send it out, their statement of the, I think, 5 things that they're asking the governor to consider vetoing from the budget. My assumption is the governor knows and will know in conversing with the party that is in control which ones he have a veto-proof majority and which things his veto might be able to stand. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking forward to our board meeting in about 10 days, the board meeting in July. At that meeting, you will receive an update and a review from our 2030 goals from the 2024-25 school year. And you will receive next week the preliminary goals for the 25-26 school year. One of the things, and Mrs. Rigby touched on this, that I am most proud of is the alignment of our strategic plan with our VBO, with our culture blueprint, and the opportunity for there to be annual measurable goals that fit within Journey 2030. If an organization sets 5-year goals and doesn't change those goals for 5 years, there's going to be a problem because things switch quickly. And if you look at some of the goals we had 2 years ago, we would never have those goals today. So I am proud of what our team does and what you bring to our team when we set those 4 goals in those goal areas that allow us to be a new North Star each year as we adapt and adjust to make sure that the things that are driving us in an academic year continue to do that. Also, in a time when there is a board election and the potential for new board members to join the board, to have the board support for annual goals for the school year, so when new board members come on board, we're able to get them acclimated to those goals. This is what we're working on, and let them know that they'll have an opportunity for input on the goals the next July. So this is one of those things that will allow us smooth transitions and allow that consistency for our staff when we have potential changes on the board. So you will get those next week. We encourage you, we're asking each of you that if you have comments in advance of the board meeting, that you let either Jen or I know, and we can get those to the folks on our team and take your comments and feedback into account as we set those goals for 25-26. And then finally, our August board meeting, which unfortunately is going to be here before we know it. I don't like to think about that quite yet. Our August board meeting will be at Bishop Elementary School. We're going to have an open house for the community at 5 p.m. at Bishop to allow people to see the amazing new building that was built by our friends and our construction folks. And Jeff has overseen this process, and we're about this close to getting occupancy. So we'll be ready to roll very soon with that. We'll have an official ribbon cutting at 5:30, which will lead then to the board meeting at 6 p.m. on the 11th. All inside, so you don't have, we don't have to worry weather and temperature and all that. We'll be able to do this inside. But we're excited about August 11th. I know that Mr. Bauer and his staff are chomping at the bit to get into the building and to get into their classrooms. And we're really close when it comes to that. Are there any questions from members of the board?
I have a quick question. You mentioned the culture blueprint. What will be the process for reviewing and updating that?
Well, right now, it's not something that we yearly review. If there are things in that any of you think we should be looking at, it's not a difficult process to pull a committee together and look at it. Up until now, no one has said, hey, I think this is something that needs tweaked. So if it is, let's touch base and we'll talk.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, on the agenda for this evening also is the second reading for the primary and secondary student handbooks. So I just wanted to point that out. So with that, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve items 5B and 5C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Messick. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Messick,
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Reports and action items from the treasurer's office. Mr. Kern.
Yeah, just following up on the budget there. It was, I guess, somewhat good news out of not so great news of proposals that were for us and how the effect of it was. As we look forward to potential new levies, we will have to look at different ways of doing it, and maybe a potential of what's called an incremental levies, which can be staggered in their placement there. But as that's something to look as we look farther out in the future. One thing we always talk about the 5-year forecast is now, unless it's vetoed out, it will now become a 4-year forecast. I will say we will continue to prepare it as a 5-year forecast and maybe even beyond that as we like to look farther in the future as we can. That is one thing that will be noted be a difference as we come out. The timing of that potentially will be changed. As you remember, right now it's November that is due, and in May, that may now change to, I believe, for this year, the first one would need to be by October, but in the future, potential of August, or I think August or September and February. So, as we're always continually working on that report, that I don't see that as being an issue, but just something that will, as a board, you will see something different for that approval. One thing, too, to note, we talked about the 40% carryover cap, just some interesting information out there. There are 370 districts across the state that this will affect with a potential revenue loss of about $2.27 billion. I say potential, there is some exemptions in there where people can set aside monies for, like some districts don't have a PI fund or bond funds available to them. They can set aside monies for future capital projects that come out of their general fund. That's one thing that they'll have to report on using that. One interesting thing is the power now that gives to the local county budget commission, which is still will be the county auditor, county treasurer, and county prosecutor. They will be able to, as you give them the information of your finances for the year and setting millage rates, they will have the ability to reduce or increase those levy rates. Well, I wouldn't say increase, but reduce those rates as they see fit, depending on the information that's provided. So this could further politicize, I guess, the process of setting tax rates and the potential that is out there. So just something to keep in mind as we go forward. Anything else? I think Dr. Marshausen hit on everything out there that's important. There is some districts, which there's over 400 districts across the state that are on the 20 mil floor. They require emergency and substitute levies that they have in place to be counted towards that calculation. And there will no longer be any ability to do emergency or substitute levies. So something we do not have. We only have continuing levies in this district when it comes to general operating funds. We do have debt millage and PI millage, and there's nothing talked about as of yet for those purposes. The Fair School Funding Plan was kind of carried forward per se with the Senate version that they adopted as out of the committee there. It did not update the cost inputs, so it's really essentially using cost inputs from, I believe, fiscal year 21 that are now, even though they updated the tax valuation to the current, the most current valuations when they put in the formula. So it'd be nice that would have been in there. That probably would have resulted in additional funding, but that's given a $4 million increase over the 2 years is, like Dr. Marshausen said, is better than nothing or a reduction. So any questions on that? They're still digging through it. I know we had our association, OASPO, had a webinar this afternoon that they're still digging through everything, exactly what everything means, but that's kind of where everything sits at this point until potential line item vetoes when it comes to the governor. Okay, moving ahead to tonight's agenda. We are actually, Dr. Marshausen, we actually already have closed our books. Stuff's still processed through the bank through Monday, but we have officially closed our books. Are in fiscal year 26 at this point. But with that being said, I did want to talk about, and you'll see this in July for our June financial report. You'll see how we finished. We finished, as far as revenues are concerned, on $295 million in revenues, under by about $650,000. I will say, though, we are waiting on, we put in a reimbursement for our science of reading stipends that our teachers got that we'll receive in July here of about $706,000. So as it is, $650,000 is 0.2% difference, and will be even less than that if you're thinking about if we would have received by the end of the year this science of reading stipend. So we're pretty much right on there from that standpoint. As far as expenditures go, we are about, hold on one second here, about 780 some thousand over at this point. In the year, there again, we're about 0.3% on about $293 million of expenses. Some of that is as stuff came as timing of payments. You'll see a reflection of that as maybe something we came in before that we would have maybe normally would have paid in July, came in June and was paid ahead of time. So, so with that being said, I think we're happy with where we came in compared to our estimates as far as the general fund is concerned. The rest of this evening, you'll see on the agenda, you will see transfers. This transfer is related to the opening of Bishop Elementary. This is consistent with what we've done in the past when we've opened elementaries. Each principal's fund from each of the existing elementaries will be used to help seed, per se, Bishop's principal's fund as they start this next fall. We did have one very generous donation of $17,000 for Spear Mechanical for convocation T-shirts for staff for this next fall. You'll see year-end advances. Most of these, except for one, are related to state and federal grants. As the state closes down reimbursements, I believe it was June 10th this year, June 11th. As far as we spend the money we ask for, we put in for reimbursement through the state to reimbursements for the expenses for grants. They close those down early, and so in order not to have a negative cash balance, we go ahead and temporarily advance those funds over to cover that deficit, and then once technically July 1st hits, we'll advance that money right back to the general fund. So this is just a temporary advance to cover those negatives. We do have one fund here, the Jerome Tournament account, which is Ohio High School, which is pretty much kind of an in and out account as well. We do have a negative that we are researching the possible maybe in the past. It's something that's kind of built up over time of maybe stuff, receipts got or expenses got posted here or to the wrong accounts and stuff, and we'll dig some more into it, and we'll come back with a solution hopefully next school year. That's as far as cash advances. We have our final appropriations. We have a resolution for FY25, and then we have our start of resolutions for FY26. Within the board docs here, I put the building department budget summaries for you to look at as part of that. I will say it is a collaborative process when it comes to budgeting. Every department sits down, we provide information of past years, knowing what they have to kind of have in this next school year and try to go through that process. It does take a little bit of difference. As we do not allow carryover for our departments, but our buildings we do allow carryover. But there again is a different process with them too, as we have a per pupil allocation that we do along with what we call units, which is essentially teachers, whether it's intervention specialists, ELL teachers, whatever it may be. We'd give additional weighted funding for those per building. So that way, kind of, while the students is the same amount per student for each building, but depending on what's going on in each building, we have weighted funds to kind of differentiate between the buildings out there. Stuff has to be filed by June 30th with the county auditor. As soon as we approve this this evening, I'll probably send it to them tonight or tomorrow, probably at the latest from that standpoint. So we meet our statutorial requirements that we have to have for both FY25 and 26. Any other questions?
Okay. If there are no questions, it is recommended by the treasurer that the board approve items 6B through 6F. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Messick.
Second.
Second by Mr. Valentine. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Messick?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Rigby?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Reports from the Department of Academics and Student Learning. Dr. Schwanke.
Thank you. Although we don't have a formal report tonight, and I am glad that Chris and Lori are both enjoying some time off, I did want to make a note on the handbooks that you just approved. One of our goals next year as a department is to really rethink those student handbooks. They are accurate and they are comprehensive as they stand, perhaps too comprehensive. Next year we will be streamlining and hopefully digitizing them quite a bit. Our goal is to reduce much of the text, especially text that's redundant and perhaps repeated when not necessary. So it will be a team effort. It will include our entire academic team, Sam Althouse and Mike Ulring. So I'm saying this out loud because it's a promise to you that next year when you look at those handbooks, it will be modernized and streamlined and a lot better. So we're really looking forward to that work and will be much better for our parents and students going forward. That's all we have for this evening.
Great, thank you. Move on to the Department of Operations. Mr. Stark.
Good evening. The three items we have tonight are all in preparation for next summer. We're doing quite a bit of work now as we prepare for next summer. The first one is to recommendation to award AEC for some plumbing work at Jerome, Kaufman, and Old Sawmill. The Jerome and Kaufman are water heaters, and Old Sawmill is a backflow device, which is quite the process. And this is for, they'll design, for these fees, for all three of them, their fees include the designing, putting together the bid documents, and subsequent construction administration once the project starts. Asphalt, as much as we can every year, we try to put together an asphalt schedule. And this not only includes milling things up that have really broken, but others that don't need, we just want to put a seal on it, just like you would do your driveway to maintain it. So next year, you can see the schools we're looking at is preschool, Davis, Sells. Davis and Sells have had a lot of work the last 2 years, so it'd be good to get in there. Hopewell, Depp are all new schools, but it's really for sealing. Bailey, and the transportation parking lot where all of our bus drivers park hasn't been done in close to 10 years, and it needs quite a bit of work. Also, as part of this, and we're recommending Kleininger's group for this work with asphalt, they'll be putting together for us a priority list of all of our parking lots. So instead of us putting eyes on it or something, they will put eyes on it and say, here's what we recommend goes next, depending what it is. And we'll have a full schedule for the next 5 years. And lastly, we have quite a bit of HVAC work to do. We're recommending Prater Engineering. We've had really good luck with Prater Engineering. They're actually the engineering group that's currently doing our Riverside work. And if you could recall, Riverside is it's this summer and next summer. Don't go in there now, but go in there August 1st to look much better. But they're basically putting a whole duct system into Riverside. And we're recommending them for next year for some hot boiler work at the auxiliary gym at Kaufman, a chiller replacement at Kaufman, a chiller replacement at Glacier Ridge, air handling unit at Griselle. All of this is items that have just reached end of life. And we got this list from our friends at Spear, who is also our maintenance. They've given us a priority list of the items that they feel really need to be replaced. And so we'll be public bidding them. And that's what Prater will be doing, is putting the design together and then the public bids. So those are, and if you recall, the board has already approved work on roofs. We have 5 roofs going next year that Mays Consulting board has approved that. With this, I think we might have one more item going in front of the board for next summer. And then we'll be back in front of the board once the public bids are in. Any questions?
I kind of want to go look at Riverside when Jeff comes over and he says, don't go over to Riverside. I'm kind of that guy who, if he says don't, I want to go look. So
Well, at Riverside, and this is why we've closed the building down, it's a 2-step process. And to break it down is you have all of your equipment in the back, all your chillers and your boilers. And then this summer, they're putting in the distribution. So they're building ducts and VAV vents above in the ceiling. So all the ceiling is torn down, and all the lights will be replaced. We're going to put all LED lights in there, but all of the lights are hanging down. So when you walk in, it looks like a small explosion happened. But they have lots of people working there, lots of hours. And then, so this year, we put the distribution system in, and then next year, we pull out all the equipment in the back room. So it's very exciting, very exciting. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, it's recommended by the superintendent that the board approve items 9A through 9C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gillis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. De Silva. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Gillis?
Yes.
Mrs. De Silva?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mrs. Messick,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion
Thank you.
passes 5-0. Human Resources, Mr. Boney.
Good evening. So in May and June, we had a few retirements that are back on tonight for rehire. The first one is Mike Allring, who works in the HR department. He is on tonight to be rehired and being recommended for a one-year contract. So he's first up. And then Dave Stroh, who we heard from tonight, he's also on for a one-year contract as a teacher. We have about a dozen, well, probably 10 or 11 more people we'll bring back during our next meeting, but these two are on the agenda tonight. You'll also see 4 certified resignations, and then we have 9 new hires tonight. We're getting close to being finished with certified hires, so every time we think we're a little closer, we get a little surprised, but we're getting there. We're getting very close. We also have an attachment, so as we get ready for the start of the new school year, we have several 6-period pay requests for our middle and high school teachers. Those are on for your approval. You'll also see a few summer school hires and special education summer school hires that are on for your approval as well. And then the supplementals that are on tonight are for next year's athletics. Moving on to our classified agenda, you'll see 5 resignations and then 13 new hires. The last item that we have is 1 stipend, and that stipend is a revision to a previously approved item. It's a correction for the school year that just ended for building content leads. It doesn't change the amount, though. And that's all that we have tonight in the HR section.
Thank you. It's recommended by the superintendent to approve items 11A through 11C. Is there a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. De Silva, second by Mr. Valentine. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. De Silva,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine.
Yes.
Mrs. Gillis,
Yes.
Mrs. Messick,
Yes.
and Mrs. Rigby.
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Anybody have anything for future agenda items? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. De Silva, second.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gillis. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?